What's going on, you guys? TBR here, back yet again with another 7 Nights 2 video. And in today's video, we are going to be talking about all things proficiency and how they affect your codex and why that statistic is just so dire to your account, as well as being able to build your characters. I've had a lot of requests on what proficiency is and how it works, and that's exactly what we're going to be tackling in today's video. But before we get into all of that, I just wanted to show you guys this quick summon session I did over the weekend. As you guys are aware, we have been going for Claire, and yeah, there we go. So we ended up getting Claire, but it definitely did not end there. This was a very interesting pull session, and I was caught very off guard by this. I'm glad that I had hit the record button when I did, because this was definitely something that I don't think I could probably do again if I tried. But as you guys will see here, this ended up being the best usage of 1100 rubies I have ever put into this game, because right there, you guys, we ended up getting double Claire on one multi-summon. So pretty interesting stuff, you guys. I definitely was not expecting that, as you could tell as I clicked through all of the rest of those summons after I got that first one. But yeah, we got 2 Claires on one multi, so who'da thunk it? Let's get into today's video. Alright, you guys, before we get into today's guide, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe if you enjoy 7 Nights 2 content, and let's go ahead and get into the guide. So in today's video, of course, as I mentioned, we are going to be talking about proficiency, but in order to properly cover proficiency, we're also going to have to talk about 2 other topics, which of course is going to be your codex and how that is affected by your proficiency numbers, and then of course how that affects your overall account CP. So first up, what is proficiency? So as you guys can see, I have my Spike pulled up here, and below his stat line, which is going to show his attack, defense, and HP off here to the right, you are going to notice a line below that that says proficiency level 4 of 5. So if I go ahead and I click on the little magnifying glass, that's going to go ahead and expand the menu, and that's going to show us our proficiency numbers, as well as all of the information that we need to know about the proficiency for a specific character. So when it comes to proficiency, basically the way it works, you're going to be able to earn extra soul stones for your characters, as well as extra buffs towards your character and your codex, just for playing the character in specific modes. So what are the specific modes that you're going to be able to level your proficiency up in? So the thing that you need to know basically is you're going to be able to level up your proficiency over time, playing in pretty much anything in the game except for your basic story missions. So that's going to mean any of your dungeons, any of your raids, all of this other content, especially things like Field of Exploration and your 8-man raids, are going to be a major key to leveling up your proficiency. So there's a couple of different reasons as to why you would want to level up your proficiency. The first thing that you're going to want to know about proficiency and why you need to level it up is, of course, if we go ahead and hit this little magnifying glass here, it's going to show what we get as awards for leveling up our character's proficiency, and basically what it is going to give us is it's going to give us extra HP in this case, as well as soul stones. So as you guys will see here, I have actually earned 8 soul stones total just for leveling up my Spike and playing with him over time, and I have another 4 soul stones coming to me at level 5, which I am getting extremely close to. So basically what you would want to do this for is in order to continue to progress with your character, and this is going to be a major key to leveling up your characters in 7 Nights 2, because of course you need soul stones in order to raise the cap level for your characters, and in general you're going to be able to pick up quite a few. In fact, you're going to be able to pick up 12 soul stones just for maxing out your hero's proficiency level. So in general, you're going to be able to do this the best by going into your 8-man single raids. The best way, in my opinion, to do this, if we go here, if we take a look at our 8-man raid, you're going to see here that you are going to have a team of 8 characters for this particular raid dungeon, and that is going to be the main reason why this is so important for raising proficiency, because basically what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to maximize on your gains, because you're going to be able to potentially raise the proficiency of 8 characters at a time. Now this is a big deal, however I know that this can be a bit of a grind, because of course proficiency proficiency, while it doesn't raise necessarily slowly, it doesn't raise the fastest in the game. So what you'll want to do typically is you'll want to come in here and you'll want to grind these out, whether it be with tickets or the like. But really, when it comes to these 8-man raids, my best advice to you guys is probably to be fairly sparing with your tickets. So for those of you who are not aware, you can pick up extra ticket entries for modes like this through things like Field of Exploration and so on and so forth. But basically, what I would recommend to you guys is to be a little bit sparing with those. Now, the reason for that is because, of course, the higher tiers of these different dungeons that you go into, you're going to be able to get just that much more XP towards your proficiency for clearing them. So if you're wasting those tickets for your entries on some of these lower tiers, say maybe on level 4 or level 5 or so on and so forth, then of course you're not going to be getting and maximizing your gains. So in my opinion, you should probably be a little bit sparing with those, because eventually you will be able to get to these higher tiers and then you can go ahead and use those there. But really, it's up to you guys. Of course, as you guys can see, and I'm sure you already are aware, just for starting of the day, you are going to have 10 clears. So basically that means you're going to have 10 auto clears that are going to be available at default every single day. So you could technically go in here and get a ton of proficiency for up to 8 characters at a time. However, it is going to be a situation, as I mentioned, that these are going to scale with the level of the dungeon. So what you're going to probably want to do instead is be a little sparing with your extra entries until you get to some of these higher tiers. However, it really comes down to how much you whale, because you could also use these more premium tickets here. These are going to be your clear recharges. You could technically use those as well if you're a whale, because currently those are not going to be necessarily the most readily available thing unless you're spending money on packages, at which point you are going to have a major edge in this department, because that would mean that you could potentially raise your proficiency just that much quicker. But in general, this is going to be the best and most efficient way to raise your proficiency levels. You'll just want to make sure that once you get a character fully maxed out for proficiency, that you cycle them out of your team for this dungeon, because you don't want to waste that extra XP that could be going towards a character that could be gaining it. So in the end, what this basically means, you guys, is you'll probably want to be a little bit sparing on these tickets that you would gain from things like Field of Exploration for your extra entries until you get to the 9th or the 10th tier if you want to min-max your gains for your proficiency values. But really, it just comes down to where you're at, and I know it can be enticing to use these early in order to go ahead and raise your proficiency just that much quicker, which isn't necessarily game breaking if you decide to do so. It's just that if you wanted to min-max those numbers, you would probably want to wait until tier 9 or 10, at which point you could go ahead and start using those. And if you're a whale who is able to pick up some of those packages that's going to give you those extra clear recharge tickets every day outside of your normal 10 that you would get just for logging in, then basically you would want to go ahead and pick up those packages and do this just that much quicker. But I think that about covers kind of the basics of proficiency as to where you would find the proficiency values for your specific characters, as well as some of the different things that you could do to raise your proficiency. Like I said, if you're on a budget, then you can take this a little bit slow. Just make sure that you're doing your Field of Exploration as much as possible, and then that you're doing your dungeons and your raids every single day. But the way that you would tell whether or not your proficiency numbers have been raised enough towards getting your soul stones is, of course, if you finish a battle, you may notice that you have a notification in your inbox. You go ahead and click on that. You'll notice you have a couple of soul stones laying around in your inbox that you didn't have before you entered that fight, and that basically indicates that you have raised the proficiency value for your character enough in order to be able to level it up and get those extra soul stones. So that's going to be one of the ways that you'll be able to tell in general. But now that we've talked about kind of the basics, let's talk about how all of this affects your codex. So if we go over here to our hero codex, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys an example here using the 7 Knights. So as you guys can see here, if we go to our hero codex, down at the bottom on the left hand side in blue, you are going to see it says proficiency level 11 of 25. So basically, every time you raise your proficiency level, you're also going to be donating stats towards your hero codex, which is extremely important because that means that you are also going to be at the same time raising your overall account CP, which is going to be, of course, the main task in 7 Knights Knights 2, trying to raise your overall account CP as high as possible is really, at the end of the day, the end game of this game. So basically, there are going to be different values that you are going to be able to raise for your account based on the typing of the character. So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys that information now. So basically, whenever you raise the proficiency of a DPS or a ranged character, you are going to be able to get attack power stats towards this here. And then if you raise the proficiency of a defensive type character, you're going to get defense stats. And of course, universal and support characters are going to give you health. So in the end, if you wanted to, you could prioritize characters that are going to be your DPS or your ranged characters, because of course things like your attack power are going to feed the most CP into your overall account CP. Or you could go to the next one, which is going to be your defensive type characters, and that means that your universal and your support characters are going to be pulling up the rear as far as your prioritization is concerned. But largely, at the end of the day, I know that most people aren't necessarily going to be prioritizing their proficiency numbers based on those statistics. Instead, they're probably going to just be prioritizing their main characters that they use in things such as PvE or Arena, which is fine. You don't necessarily have to approach it from this angle. I just wanted to make sure that I gave you guys that information because it is important to note. So in the end, you guys, I hope that this kind of clears up a lot of information out there for people when it comes to proficiency. I know a lot of people have asked me about it and have been a bit confused about it. Of course, it is going to be something that is of the utmost importance. As you guys can tell, not only is it going to raise your overall character's power, but it's going to raise your overall account power, as well as giving you soul stones to continue leveling up your characters. But I hope you guys found this informative. If you did, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe. And until the next time, you guys take care. Peace.
Continue.